AI automations used to be complicated. They take days to set up, you'd have to watch endless tutorials, and you still have to spend hours debugging just to get them working. But that's not the case anymore. As in this video, I'm going to share with you 30 powerful AI automations that you can build in under 5 to 10 minutes each, all without writing a single line of code or requiring any previous technical experience. And these automations are already being used by business owners, founders, and professionals to save countless hours every single day, help them be more productive, and of course, make them more money. So if you're not using some of these within your business or your workflows already, you are probably falling behind. So let's get right into building them. Now, the tool that we will be using for building these automations is called Lindy. It has over 5,000 integrations with other apps across the internet, as well as 4,000 web scrapers. It's got an intuitive drag and drop builder that allows us to build the automations visually, and because of its AI-first approach, we can configure the different modules within our automation in plain English, meaning no complex schemas or no coding required. Now, we are covering a lot of automations in this video, so I'm not gonna dive too deep into every single one of them. Otherwise, this video is going to be multiple hours long. But I am going to cover exactly how you can use each one of these automations within your business or your professional workflows, as well as how you can build them within Lindy itself. And as we go through this entire list, you will learn everything that you need to know about Lindy to start building any kind of automations that you have in mind. So let's dive right into it. We've got podcast Notetaker. We can build an AI automation where we send it a podcast, it listens for the episode, transcribes it, and sends us the summary. It starts off with the trigger once again, where we send a message to the Lindy. And as you could see here by the flow, it goes into an action module. You can add action by right-clicking on the screen and clicking add action. In our case, we have this web search function, so to search the internet. Here we have a query that tells it to perform a Google search with the query given by the user. It will search for the podcast, then it goes through to the condition module, which in plain English just decides whether this episode is new or weak. If there has been a new episode, it transcribes the podcast using the transcription action, and then sends us the summary. If not, then it goes down this route where it sends us a message telling us that there has been no new podcast this week, and asks us whether we want us to summarize another podcast. If the user has responded with another episode, it goes back through and repeats this process. And here we also have a recurring schedule. So we can set it up that every single Monday at 9 a.m., Lindy will transcribe a certain podcast that we tell it here. And here you can enter any podcast that you want, and every single week it will go through this automation by itself without you having to trigger it manually and send you a summary. Next up, we've got the web researcher. So you can set up an automation where AI will research the web for you. Once again, we started the message trigger, and then we have an AI agent set up telling us exactly what to do. That once it receives the URL, it will then go to this URL and summarize it. Here we just have the points of exactly how we want it summarized. But for the agent to be able to do that, we have to give it skills. And that's the cool thing about Lindy. In Lindy, we can give our agent skills that it knows when to use for certain tasks. To do so is very simple. You click the plus button here and add the different skills. We want it to be also able to put this research into a Google Doc. In this case, we'll choose Google Doc, and we can give it a create document skill. Super straightforward, this one. We just send in a message here and it will carry out the research for us. Next up, we've got lead generator. We can build an AI automation that will find leads for us, all on autopilot. Now it looks complex, but let me break it down real quick. To build this automation, you can start with the message trigger, go into the condition module. We go down one path if the user is requesting a contact search, not a company search. And we go down another path if the user is requesting the company search. If it's a company search, we have a People Data Labs action module here, which will then do the company search for the prompt given. Here we set a limit here of 3. However, if the user requests more, it will do that specific number instead. Once the search is carried out, it goes and creates a lead list on Google Sheets and then sends that info to the user. The user can then reply to that message and talk to the AI agent, which has also the People Data Lab skills as well as the Google Sheet skill to make modifications to this Google Sheet. It also has another prompt where if the user has asked for more leads, it can use these existing skills to add them to the Google Sheet, as well as research further. And the other path was if the user is requesting a contact, not a company search. It then goes down another filter to make sure that Lindy can actually find the leads. So it can find the leads if the user provides the following filters like location, industry, skills, and it cannot go down the path if it's not one of these filters. If it can't, then it sends us a message telling us that it cannot do the search. And if it can, it goes into People Data Labs and does the research. And here we have a prompt telling it how to use the filters and how to do the research itself. Let's test it out. I'm gonna ask it to find 5 graphics designers in Melbourne. So as you can see, it met the condition for the industry and location, and it proceeded to research the leads. It will then take these leads, put it in a Google Sheet and send it to us. Next automation, we have a sales meeting recorder. So you can build an AI automation that joins every single one of your meetings, records them, transcribes them, and sends you that summary. We can start it off with 2 different triggers. One is message received, and another one is calendar event started. So whenever an event is started, we can then have it go down the condition route to see whether it's an external or internal meeting. If it's an internal meeting, we can go down this route and delete the task, meaning that it's not going to proceed further. And will only transcribe and join meetings if it's external or sales meetings. Here next we have an action module to record the meeting itself. For the URL here, we basically have a prompt telling us to take the URL from the calendar event that triggered this automation in the first place. To get it to work, we need a meeting URL, right? But rather than going through complex schema and setting that up, we literally just prompted Lindy here to get the URL from the calendar event that triggered it. Simple as that. When this automation is triggered, it will by itself find the URL and join the meeting. Then you can add a Google Docs action that gives it a prompt telling it that it's a sales analyst tasked with extracting critical insights or whatever might be the case for your industry, and then gives it a format for the notes and exactly how we need them. Then to get those notes, we add a Slack action that allows Lindy to send us those notes by Slack so that Lindy knows who to send it to. In the user configuration, we literally just prompt it with the user's email. It'll by itself find the email from these meetings and send the message on Slack using that information. And then we can add a Gmail action so that it drafts a follow-up email to the attendee using those notes. For the recipient email, we prompt Lindy telling it to use the external attendee's email address. For BCC, we prompt it to use the user's email address. For the subject, we tell it to use a 2-word summary of the call itself, and then add follow-up on the end of that. And for the email itself, we tell it to draft follow-up email using the notes that it's done before. And we give it an example email here so that it knows the formatting. Simple as that. For next automation, you can build a sales call prep assistant. You can build an AI that will research all your leads before the call starts and send you that information so that you're ready for any of the calls that you go onto. To do that, start the trigger of calendar event started on Google Calendar. Then add a condition module to figure out whether it's a sales call or an internal meeting. If it's an internal meeting, then just not proceed with this task. Then just delete the task. However, if it is a sales call, add a web search trigger, which will then find the attendee's LinkedIn. Then another web search trigger, which will find the crunch page for the company. Then another trigger, which will find the company website. And then you can add a few other actions if you want to. For example, if it's a sales call, then add a web search action, which will then search through the web to find the LinkedIn of the attendee, and then you can add as many extra ones as you want. For example, here we have find the crunch base for the company, find the company website, and then here lastly we have one more action, which is the extract web action, which will then use the website that it's found and extract information from there. And then add a simple Slack action that will send the user, which is to us, the bullet point summary of all of this information that is found. Simple as that. So next up, we've got lead enrichment automation. You can build an automation that automatically finds your leads and enriches them as much as it can all by itself. This one can be super powerful and it can save hundreds of hours for your team. To build it, start off with a message trigger, then add a Google Sheets action to get the spreadsheet your leads. Then we add a new action which I haven't shown before, which is the enter loop. Loops basically allow us to get multiple data points from things like spreadsheet, so that it can research them simultaneously. So let's say we have 10 different leads. Basically what it will do, it will enter the loop and start this research process for every single one of those leads. To set up the loop, you can tell it to go through each row of the Google Sheet independently and then basically just describe what each item in this row is and what information corresponds to the lead, like name, email, company, etc. So each one of these items will enter the loop and start this search. Next, you can add perplexity action modules. So for each one of the points that you want to research for your leads, you can add a perplexity search that does a search for that. For example, you can add a perplexity search to find the years of experience of your leads, find the company headcount, find the company HQ location. Then you can add an action for the web search to find the Twitter profile. Then you can add another one for recent news. And then once all of that is done, to update the row with all of that information. And then you can add update row to update each one of those leads with all of this information that you researched. Once that's done, the loop is exited. And then add one more action to send us a message that all of this has been complete. And you can completely customize it to your industry and whatever information that you need on your leads. Next up, email qualifier. We can build an AI automation that by itself qualifies the emails that we receive so that we know the best ones to reply to. To build that, start off with an email trigger, which then goes through the condition module to check whether or not that email requires a response. If it does require a response, then you can add an email action, which will then search through your email history with that person. Then add another condition module to see whether or not that email is unique. So creating a condition where if you have not received an email from this person before in the past 12 months, then do not proceed further. However, if you did find an email exchange with that person, then add another condition module, which will separate the emails into unique and not unique. So it will only go down the unique path if we have not talked to this person in the last 12 months. If we have talked to them in the past 12 months, that lead is not unique. If it's not unique, then do nothing, right? Because we already know that person. If it's unique, however, we can add a data labs action, which will enrich that emailer. Then you can add an AI agent, which will use that information to research the sender. Here you can add a prompt of exactly what you want researched, the company, headcount, etc. And you can give it a web search skill so that it can do the web search to find the relevant information. Then lastly, add another email action that will email you with all of the information that it found about the sender of the structure that you want. For example, here it will tell you the company of the sender right away, the information about the company, and all of the information about the sender itself. Next up, you can build an AI automation that works as your own knowledge assistant. So you can message it about different documents that you need on anything, any kind of information that you need retrieved. It will search from the knowledge base and answer your question. To do that, start off with a message trigger and then add the knowledge base functionality that is within Lindy. The knowledge base can be loaded up with all kinds of information. You can send it files, you can send it text, you can give it websites, you can give it Google Drive files, OneDrive files, Dropbox, Notion, etc. Once you set up the knowledge base, you can add another action module, which is then prompted to answer the user to the best of its ability using the knowledge base from before. To use it, you'll be able to just go to tasks, message it here, ask about your documents, it will search for the knowledge base and give you the reply. Now, this one is super simple, but it's very powerful because we can use this knowledge base in any of our favorite apps. For example, we can get it to messages on Slack, or we can get it to messages on Telegram. We can get it to messages on WhatsApp. The options are honestly countless. This becomes really powerful because you can integrate this into your team Slack channel so that everybody can quickly retrieve SOPs or retrieve any kinds of documents that you need for your daily operations. Next up, you can build an email negotiator. You can build an AI automation that automatically negotiates all the incoming emails for you. To build it, start off with an email trigger. Once an email is received, next add the condition module, which determines whether it's an inquiry or something else. If it's an inquiry, then after that, add the knowledge base module, which then you can load up with any of knowledge about your company and your operations, any information that Lindy will need to use for the negotiations. Then add another condition module, which basically determines whether or not it found a response to this kind of email that it received in the knowledge base that we set up before. If it found a response, you can then add another email action where it will respond to the email using prompt that you want. For example, here we have an automation that is set up to negotiate partnerships. Here we have an example email with our example rates. It will respond to the email using the following structure. After the reply is received to this email, then you can add another condition module that will proceed after the reply is received to this email. Then after the reply is received, set up another condition module and then set up 3 paths. One for if the emailer is asking for additional quotes, another one if the email is ready to move forward, and another one if the receipt declined the offering and they're not interested. If they're not interested, set up another email action that just responds to them politely saying, no worries, thanks for your time. Another one, if the deal is closed, telling them the next step, how to proceed further. Then if the email is closed, add another action that tells them the next steps, how to proceed further. And then for the requires negotiation condition, add an AI agent. This will be our negotiating agent. Here set up a prompt telling it that it's an email negotiator and how you want it to negotiate, and give it a few instructions to make sure it doesn't go ramble. Tell it to respond directly and how you want it to sign off. Tell it how long you want the responses to be, and tell it to never make offerings or any kinds of deals unless it has found previous deals and offerings in the knowledge base that we linked before. And then lastly, tell it to continue to work with this emailer until there's a decline in partnership or an agreement is reached. And then the skills tab, give it the send reply skill. Then add another condition module where if they're ready to move forward, you can send them here to the closed partnership deal. If they've declined, they're not interested, send them once again here to the response that we created for not interested. And then if no decision has been made, you send them back to the AI agent to continue the negotiations. Once you set all of this up, the AI agent will be able to negotiate emails on your behalf. The main thing that you'll need to do for the setup is set up the knowledge base, all of the different examples of how the agent should proceed for the different kinds of negotiations. So you need to give it your pricing, the different kind of responses, the different kinds of scenarios, and things of that nature. And the agent will use that knowledge base and negotiate exactly the same way as you would. Next up, we've got an AI sales coach. You can set up an AI assistant that joins every single one of your meetings, records them, analyzes them, and sends you coaching feedback so that you can improve on the calls. To set it up, start with the calendar action, which detects when the calendar event is started. Next, set up record meeting, which we've seen before. This will make our agent join the meeting. Next, we set up a Lindy mail action, which will analyze our meeting and, using the prompt here, give us coaching feedback. Here we told it that it's an expert enterprise sales coach. We wanted to send feedback on how we conducted the sales call. It uses the MEDDPICC qualification skills to analyze our call. The framework it will analyze our call is by metrics, economic buyer, decision criteria, decision process, paper process, implication of pain, champion, and competition. So using this framework, it will analyze the call and try to detect moments where we accepted surface level answers and suggest where we could have asked more concrete questions or made concrete statements to dig much deeper. It will then email this to us. Then we add one more Lindy mail action that will respond to the follow-ups, so that when Lindy sends us the coaching feedback, we can mail it back and ask for further questions. It will then reply to them as well. Next up, you can build an automatic content repurposer. You can build an AI agent that automatically repurposes content for you. So to build it, start off with a message received trigger. Then add a condition module where we can add different conditions for the different kinds of content so that we can process them. In our case, we added Instagram, YouTube, URL, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. For each one of those, you can add an action. For example, here we added an Instagram reel action that will be able to basically take the Instagram reel that we sent, process that information, and send that to our next module. Same we did for Instagram post, webpage, YouTube video URLs, LinkedIn, Facebook, etc. So each one of these, once processed, will be sent to the message here. Then for each one of those conditions, we'll set up an individual action that will allow us to retrieve that post from the URL that we sent. For example, here we did one for Instagram Reel, Instagram posts, webpage, videos, YouTube videos, etc. So once we send the link, it will go into each one of those individual actions depending on what we send, and then send the information through. Here we have a few different options. We can add an AI agent, we can add, let's say, like a Slack message, we can add a Telegram message, whatever. Like, the options are up to you, however you want to receive your content. In our case, we added the Lindy send message action, and we just told it that it's an AI powered content repurposing agent. And then we just gave it a few different rules. We told it that if we provided it the content, and we told it the specified target platform to simply proceed and rewrite the content accordingly. If not, then we just told it to basically ask us again and basically ask us if any kind of links are missing. So simple as that. Whenever we send a URL to Lindy now, it will go through these conditions, extract whatever the post that we send it to, send it through to the action module, and that will rewrite the content and send it back to us. So this way you can repurpose any content from your platforms onto other ones at rapid speed. Next, you can set up a case study drafter. You can set up an AI agent that will be able to draft the case study for you from your calls, the customers. You can then repurpose that into content or put it on your website. Options are endless. We can start with a message trigger so that we can trigger it manually, or we can start the calendar trigger so that it triggers automatically. We can also add a filter here with a certain text, so this Lindy only joins certain kinds of calls. For example, here in the filter we can write case study so that it knows only to join calls that have this in their name. Next up, you can add a condition module which has two conditions. One is for meeting links and one is for transcripts, so that we can use this automation for both like sending transcripts manually as well as having it join the calls and transcribing it itself. Then after the meeting link condition, add a record customer call action so that Lindy joins the call itself and then transcribes it. So if it's a meeting link, after that add an action module for recording the customer call so that Lindy can join, transcribe it, and send that information through to draft the case study. Or if it's a transcript, it can skip the recording part and send it straight to our next module, which is to draft the case study. Here you can add a chat with Lindy action, or you can add an AI agent if you wanted to. And here you can prompt it telling how you want your case study to be drafted. Here you can just give it some context and give it the layout of what you want your case studies to look like. After that, Lindy will send us this draft as a message. And then again, we can add a condition module, giving it two conditions. Or one is if we say that it's ready and we can put it into Google Doc. For the condition where the user asks for more edits, send it back to the draft module. If the condition of no edits is met, you can send it to the next action, which is to create a Google Doc. And then just a final messaging action to message back the user with the copy of the doc. And then in the settings tab, you can give it more context, telling it how you want the draft to be made. For example, you can tell it to focus on storytelling, use data-driven results, keep it short, impactful. You can modify this as much as you want so that the drafts come out the way that you want them to. Next, we can create an automation to create content from our support inbox. So whatever customers email us for support, we can use those ideas to create content for different platforms. To set it up, super simple. Set up a timer trigger that will trigger, let's say, every Monday at 9 a.m. Then add a Gmail action so that it scrapes for your inbox and finds the relevant emails. In the query, you can just write for it to look through all support related emails. You can add a time here, for example, 24 hours ago, but in our case, we did it once a week, so we can set it up for longer than that. So let's say 7 days ago, so that it doesn't look for older emails than 7 days. Then you can set up a Lindy chat action to craft the content. Give it a prompt with the objective, so just giving more context on what it's doing, the process itself, telling that it will review the support emails in the past, let's say 7 days. It will categorize these issues, develop a theme, and then start creating the content. It will basically use each theme from those recurring questions to make the content for us. We can tell it more info about the content. For example, we want it to be certain characters length and how we want the content to be structured. For example, hook, context, example, insight, action. And then we can give it the output format. So in what output we want it to send us the content. Now every Monday at 9 a.m. it will scrape for our email inbox, go for our support emails, and then draft the different content ideas for us. Next up, we've got an SEO assistant. You can set up an AI agent that will help you optimize your SEO. You can start off with a message trigger, then add the extract web page action so that it extracts text from the URL that we send it. Then add a condition module. The two conditions. One is that if the user is asking to optimize the content, and the other one is if the user requests to create new content. For the new content condition, add a Lindy message action. Ask the user to specify the topic or the content that they wish to create. Then add the web researcher action with the prompt telling Lindy how to optimize and research the content. Here we gave it a few steps. We told it to do the keyword research. We told it the best SEO practices for the keyword research. And we told it how it can research for new content ideas. Then we asked it for deliverables, so primary keywords, secondary keywords, long tail keywords, and supporting research. And we just told it to keep it all organized. Then add another Lindy send message action that will basically act as the SEO professional. We told it to do deep analysis on the user's copy, then use advanced SEO integration, create high quality content, and ask it to create high quality SEO optimized blog posts. Here we give it a big prompt with different steps, how to perform the deep analysis, how to do the advanced SEO integration, how to do high quality content creation, as well as quality assurance. And at the end, we specified our deliverables. We told it that we want a polished, publication ready blog post that mirrors the user's website style and is optimized for quality and SEO. And at the end, we just clarified our focus. So now, using all of the previous information, so the user's web page, as well as the extra information it receives from us when messaging us and asking for more clarification, and then the further research that it does by itself, it will then draft us the blog articles that are SEO optimized in this action here. It will then send us that as a message, and just to have an option to rewrite it, we'll add one more condition module, which basically just goes down this path if the user provides feedback on the writing style, or we ask it for some kind of change. Then we just link it back to this message so that it rewrites it with whatever we tell it to. So using this, you'll now have your own SEO assistant that can go through your URL and create your SEO optimized content in your own style, as well as carrying out the research for you. Next up, brand monitor automation. We can set up an automation that automatically on a recurring schedule browses the web for any mention of our business and then sends us the summary to make sure that we have good PR and keep an eye on anything that people basically talk about our business. To set it up, start off with the timer trigger. We're gonna set it up for every Monday at 9 a.m. Next up, add the search web action. Here we give it a query telling it that it's our brand monitor and report assistant. We tell it the responsibilities, so brand monitoring. We tell it where to search, so we tell it to search across social media platforms, news sites, review platforms, forums and community boards, and we ask it to collect source of mentions, context, date and time, linked to the mention. And then we ask it to generate a report. So create a summary on all of this information that it finds. So summarizing everything briefly, key insights, trends, metrics, and recommendations. Once that's done, you can add the last action. In our case, we added Lindy Mail. And we ask it in the subject line to mention that it's our weekly business insight with key trends and updates. And in the body, we prompted it to compose an email using the provided business insights and trends that it found in the previous step. So that's it. Now, every Monday at 9 a.m., Lindy will search for any new mentions of your brand and send you back the summary. After the steps, we can just add our brand name as well as any additional keywords so that it knows what to search for. Next, you can set up an AI news tracker. You can set up an automation that on a recurring schedule search for news in any specific industry and then sends you a report. This way you can always stay updated on the latest trends. Very similar to the previous automation, here we start off with the timer trigger. Here I'm going to set it to every day at 8 a.m. Next we set up the web search action. And we just tell it to search through the latest business insights for the past 24 hours in whatever industry that we are in. We ask it to provide as much information as possible and include article titles, authors, publication dates, source URLs, etc. And then send us the summary via email. And to make sure that the information that we receive is easily digestible, in the body here we give it a prompt to draft a professional email summarizing the latest news, and we give it some instruction for how we want to receive that report and that we want it in just 250 words. You can use this one for any kind of industry and can be really useful for the niches where things move really fast and you really need to stay up to date. Next, we've got the user feedback collector. You can build an AI automation that takes all of the feedback that you receive from different channels and summarizes them all into one singular database. And then let's say every day or every week, it sends you a summary of all of that feedback that you've been receiving in a Slack message. To build it, you can start off with the different triggers that you might have in your business. For example, in our case, we set up an email received, we set up a message received. So let's say you have a Slack thread for feedback for your customers. Then we have Google Sheets, new row added. So maybe you have a spreadsheet where we keep the user feedback manually. And then we have a simple condition module to make sure that the information that comes from these triggers is feedback. You can add as many as you want, so maybe you also have Telegram, WhatsApp group, whatever it is. Next up, add an AI agent that just tells us to update the feedback tracker Notion database. We add the Notion database skill here, and we just have to make sure that we link it on the back end. So what this will do is basically take all of the different feedback that we receive, filter it, make sure it's feedback, and then the AI agent will add it automatically to the Notion database. So now we have all the feedback in one place. Next up, we add another trigger, which is the timer trigger that occurs, let's say, every day at 9 a.m. Next, we add the Notion find database items action that will basically find the feedback database and then retrieve the items from there. It will then send us a Slack channel message with that feedback summarized. In the message, we literally just prompted AI the summary of the feedback, and then we just specified the product channel. So it's as simple as that. This automation will now take all our feedback, put it in one place, and then have a report sent to you every week or every day if you wanted to. The next automation will be useful for anyone who's running a physical business, as it's an inventory low stock alert. With this automation, you can track whenever you have a low stock in your inventory and get a notification wherever you want. Start with the timer trigger, set when you want it to check, so let's say every day at 8 a.m. Then add a Google Sheets action, choose the spreadsheet that has your inventory information, and then add a Slack action. Here just specify that it's an AI-powered inventory Reorder Assistant, responsible for analyzing inventory data and generating reorder alerts. In the process, just specify that it has to receive the inventory data from the spreadsheet, identify the products, and then generate a Slack message or email alert whenever each one of these items needs reordering. Then we just tell it what we want the message to look like, and then tell it to automatically send a message via Slack or email, and then tell it that this process runs automatically without requiring confirmation. You can set it to run every hour or every week. It really depends how often your stock runs out. Next up, we've got a chunky automation, but a very valuable one if you want to scale your business fast. And that is the recruiting agent. We can build an AI agent that automatically recruits new talent for us. Now, this might look intimidating, but let me break it down as fast as I can. So we start off with the message trigger. Then we add a condition module. There's two different conditions. One of them just makes sure that the message that the user sends has the needed filters. For example, like a role or a title for the job, location, company name, etc. The other condition is that it lacks those things. If it lacks those things, then we send it down the no path. Down this path, we just add a message module that will basically just message back the user and ask for the necessary information. It will loop back to this condition modules until basically the conditions are met, and it can proceed with the yes path. It will use the provided filters that you gave and then search for the individuals. Here we just say use 5 by default, but then do more if user specifies to. Then we take the information and process them into a loop, which we've seen before. This will take the emails of each one of the candidates and loop them through this process. Here what we tell it is that loop through the list of candidate emails addresses retrieved from the previous search. For the output, we tell it to only include candidates whose email is not already in our inbox. So we only want the unique individuals. To search through them, we use the search emails function. Basically what will happen is this automation will take the emails, search for our Gmail, make sure we haven't talked to them before, and if we haven't, it will allow them to out of the loop and send them to this agent. Here we basically set up an AI agent that will screen those candidates. It will make sure that the candidates have an email address and then screen for a few other things like their name, current role, etc. Once that's done, we add a send message action. After that, we ask it to present each one of these candidates to us so that we can choose which one we want to proceed with. And in the skills, we add the show multiple choice. So basically the agent will take these different employees, present us the options, and then let us choose which one we want to proceed with. Then we add the send message action. Here we'll just prompt it how it should proceed further. What it should do if we only pick 1 or 2, what it should do if we pick 3, and what it should do if we pick 3 or more. Then we set up another condition module. One is that if we ask it to send the emails directly, and the other one is that if we ask it to do another search. If we ask it to do another search, we can loop it back and basically send it back through this process here to search for more people. For the second condition though, where we ask it to draft emails, we add another action module to send a message. Then if we go down the condition of drafting emails, we add another message to basically tell us that it's going to proceed further. Then we add another condition module. So if the user wants to send an email, or if the user wants to send an email as draft. If the user wants to send an email as draft, here we make another loop where we'll draft an email for each one of those individuals, and it will send us a message that it's complete. However, here you can build another automation where it will automatically send multiple emails if we do tell Lindy that we want to proceed with it, sending the emails itself. So two options, right? One option is to draft the emails, and basically we'll send the emails ourselves. Or here, if you want Lindy to email on our behalf, then it will enter this bigger process. So here again, we set up a loop. The candidates will go through this loop. We set up our first outreach email, basically just specifying here in the body, what kind of email we want to send. You can customize it as much as you want. And then we just specify what we want to do once the email is sent or once the reply is received. If reply is received, here we can add another timer action to basically cancel the timer, and that will basically be the end of this loop, right? However, if they have not replied, we can continue the 2-day timer, then send them a follow-up email that we can specify here, and then start another timer. If they've replied, then we can cancel this timer. If they haven't replied, we'll proceed with a 3-day timer, and then we send them one more final follow-up email, which we also specify here. And then that's it. So basically now you have this automation where you can tell Lindy what kind of employees you're looking to hire, what location, other criteria. It will search through for those people. It will make sure that you haven't talked to them before. It will give you the previews of the different employees. It will ask you to choose which ones you want. It will then ask you if you want to draft email or you don't want to draft an email, or if you want to do another search. If you want to do another search, it will do another search. If you want to draft, it will draft you just one email. If you don't want to draft and you want Lindy to do the entire outreach itself, it will do that for you. Here, the multiple emails following up to 2 times. Pretty powerful automation, but can save you a lot of time and help you find new talent for your company. Next up, we've got an AI automation that will actually help you with the recruitment part itself. And it is an AI interview assistant. We can set up an AI automation that will act as an assistant for us to carry out the interviews itself. To build it, we start off with the calendar trigger. Then we add a condition to make sure it's an online meeting and there's an interview link, not an in-person meeting. Then it gets the link. We add the record action to join the meeting itself. Then we add a create Google Docs action to take the transcript and then create a Google Doc from that. Then we set up a get Google Docs action so that Lindy can get the Google Docs, the job description, and then retrieve the information from there. And then we add the email action. We tell it that it's an email composer tasked with creating candidate evaluations email that are clear, professional, engaging. The job is to summarize the candidate conversation and then compare those points to the job description. We outline the whole process, like candidate responses, strengths they demonstrated, concerns, and the areas needing improvement. And then we compare all those points to the job description. And after that, give it an overall fit score out of 10. Then we ask it to create an email message from that. We give it an example email. And then we ask it to create an email message and just specify what we want it to include. And then we just specify that Lindy should email that to the user directly. Basically, we'll get an email with an overview of the transcript of our interview and how well they met the job description. And then we add one more Slack DM action to basically send us all of that information on the Slack message as well. This makes recruiting a lot easier. You don't have to take notes during the interview. You can just focus on doing the interview itself, and then you get an AI summary whether that person is a good fit or not. The next automation is pretty crazy because it can replace your receptionist with a 24/7 working AI agent, and it is AI Receptionist. You can create an AI assistant that can receive calls and act as a receptionist, so they can book appointments and do things of that nature. To build it, we start off with the Lindy call received trigger. We then set up one path where after the call ends, we get the task URL within the Lindy itself, update a Google Sheets database with that URL so that we have basically the log of the call that happened, and then we send an email with a summary of the conversation so that we can keep log of all of the calls that go through. Then we can set up the other path, which is the main logic, which is the actual receptionist. We add an AI agent that's completely customized here with all of our brand info, like our business name, the different services we provide, different department information, customer support numbers, billing inquiries, phone numbers, more and more and more. Here we can give it a name. We can specify the agent name here. We can specify the role of this specific receptionist, so what kind of service they are assisting with. And then we add like a lot of important notes, so like what kind of actions we wanted to carry out, where we wanted to find the information from when it acts as a receptionist, etc. This is very, very detailed. I recommend checking out the template itself if you want to set this up, because it's important you get the details right so that the receptionist acts properly and actually delivers the support that your customers are looking for. But in this prompt, we specify everything that our receptionist will know on how to handle the calls. We outline exactly how you should check for appointments and availability. So we give it all the different times that we have available and how we should ask the user for the available times, how we should proceed if no slots are available. We also specify to the Lindy how we should book the appointments and the notifications. So like, for example, one slot is confirmed, proceed to the booking, how we should lay out the booking itself, how we should notify the team internally, how we should send the confirmation email. Then we have the next step for handling objections and rescheduling. So if they want to change the time, what Lindy should do. Then we have call conclusion. So just telling Lindy to like make sure that all tasks are completed and that the person who booked the receptionist like got what they needed in the end. So we just give it some guidelines where we specify that we'll use the different condition loops for different actions. We tell it some important things like internal process secrecy. So like the Lindy should never disclose internal processes or action names to the callers, just making sure they cannot abuse the receptionist. And there's a lot more details that I can go into here, but then this part will be way too long. But here afterwards, we set up all the different conditions that the agent can go to perform its tasks, right? So if the agent needs to search rows, we add a condition here, the Google Sheet linked. If they need to find a slot, we add a calendar action here, the finding available times. If the agent needs to book an appointment, we add an action here for creating an event. If they ask a question and the receptionist needs to access a knowledge base, We add another path here for the knowledge base, the same for the confirmation email. And then we have two more last actions. So if the user asks to end the conversation, we can end the call. Or if the user asks to transfer a call, we can actually transfer the call as well with an action here. There's quite a lot that goes into this one in the prompt itself within the agent. So I recommend checking out the link in the description for the template itself so that you can start playing around with it. But lastly, in the settings, we also gave it more context. So just telling Lindy that it's a receptionist. We gave it important instructions to like not think out loud, ensure the conversation remains concise, communicate only by audio, so it doesn't like try to output text and then the user on the other end is confused. And then we tell it to end the call by disconnecting without like saying call ended. So basically just hangs up like a real human. Next up, one of my favorite automations, super simple to set up, yet still very powerful. And that is the email triager. We can set up an AI automation that automatically labels our emails so that we can see instantly which ones are important, which ones we should reply to, etc. To build it, start off with an email received trigger. Then create the conditions module. And here we can define the different labels that we want to make. For example, one path is that if the email seems like a high priority email. The other path could be if the email contains a question. The other one could be if the email is a newsletter. The other one is a lead. The other one is a customer asking for an FAQ. And then for each one of those conditions, we create an email label. Here, we don't even have to specify the label. We can literally just let AI automatically fill the field. Because as it goes down the condition, this label option will know what to do with it. As this one will be important, it will label it as important. For some of them, if you wanted to, you can actually automate a reply. So you don't actually need to add the label action. You can add an mail action. So for example, if it's an FAQ, we can get Lindy to automatically reply to it. A powerful thing here could be adding a knowledge base. So in between the steps, we can add a knowledge base. So if it's a customer FAQ, it searches through the knowledge base where we have the FAQ. We can ask it to draft a reply using the results from the knowledge base. We give it like an example email and things I showed you in the previous examples where we use the email function. And for the important ones, it would make sense to set up some kind of notification system. For example, here I added a Telegram send message. So automatically, if the email is important, I can ask it to send me a notification, the body of that email. So this way, when the email is important, I will get automatic message from Lindy directly to my Telegram, knowing that I have to get back to it, and the rest will be labeled accordingly. Next up, we've got probably one of the most used automations, and that is the appointment booking agent. So this agent will basically work as a personal assistant to help you book appointments. To set it up, we start with an email trigger. Then we add the condition module to make sure that it only goes down this path if the email is about booking an appointment. Then we add the check availability action. So we get Lindy to automatically check the availability using the information from the email before. Here we can like specify our workday hours. So what day we start the work, what day we end the work, and then a maximum amount of meetings we can have per day. Then we add another condition module. Here we say that we should only go down one path if there are no scheduled events or activities for the specified timestamp. So it's available. Or go down the other path if the requested slot is unavailable. If unavailable, we add another action to find available times. Once again, specify the same thing that we specified before, like our work start hour and our workday end hour. And then we add another action to send a reply. And then we give it a prompt to compose an email informing that no slots are available and provide the available time slots. And then after the reply is received, we loop it back here. So it does the same thing, checks for availability, finds available times, not available, emails them back again. Or if available, we add another Google Calendar action here to create the event itself. So it will automatically use the information from the previous email to create the event. And then we add an email action here to compose an email as a confirmation message with the event that we created. Very simple, but very powerful, allows you to automatically have appointments booked for you from the emails that you receive. So we had an AI before to find the leads. Now we're gonna go full circle and build an AI that outreaches to those leads themselves. Actually, if you wanted to, you could set up within that previous automation to send through those leads to here. So as you can see here, we can have a trigger that is a message received from another Lindy. But anyways, okay, so to start building, we can have two different triggers. We can have a Google Sheet trigger, which could actually link to the Google Sheet we had before for the leads that we researched and that we enriched. Or we can have a message trigger so that we can trigger manually. Then we add an email action. In the to field, we just literally say the email address that you received, so from the Google Sheet or from the message. In the subject line, 1 to 2 word subject line based on the information you have. And then in the body, we just give it like a basic outreach email. So once the email is sent, what do we do? So we want to follow up with them, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to add a timer action. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a timer trigger. So after email is sent, we'll start a timer for 3 days. In Lindy, you have to specify it in minutes. So here we have specified 3 days in minutes. After the time passes, we send them the second email. So this will be the follow-up email to the previous one. After that is done, we do the same thing again. We start a timer for another 3 days. And then we send them the final third outreach email. And once that's done, we add the Slack message action to notify us that this whole thing took place. However, in this automation, we also added that after reply is received at any of the stages, that the timer stops, because we don't need to follow up to them if they already replied, right? So as you can see here, if the reply is received, cancel the timer and give us the response by Slack. Same for this point and same for this point. Next up, we got an AI automation that can make sure that our investments are safe. And that is an automatic AI stock researcher. So we can build an AI that automatically every day checks for new information on the companies that we're bought into, so the different stocks. Gets the latest news, puts that in a Google Sheet, so every day we can go in and find the latest information about the company. So we can build this automation by starting off with an timer trigger that starts every day at 8 a.m. Then we just add a get Google Sheet action that will find the spreadsheet with our stocks. So once it receives the Google Sheet with the relevant stocks, we then create a loop. In the loop, we just tell it to loop through each one of the stocks listed on the Google Sheet. Then the max cycles of 10, because let's say we only have 10 stocks in there, we only want to search for 10. Then we have the thinker. So for this one, we'll tell it to basically generate a search prompt for Perplexity based on the given inputs. So enter the ticker symbol of the stock that we'll get from the Google Sheet as well as the company. Here we have the time that it started at as the reference to like what day it is. And then we just ask it to like generate a prompt that will allow Perplexity to like research this further, as well as the format. Then we add the Perplexity action that will basically take in this information and use Sonar Reasoning Pro. Or if you want, you can do Sonar like reasoning or even deep research if you don't mind waiting and paying more. But it will use that information from before, use Perplexity to research it further. Then we just have an analyzer to basically condense all that information. Here you can set it on auto, or you can set it on prompt AI and just tell it that you wanted to condense this into like digestible information in the format that you want. But I'll just leave it on auto. And then once that's done, it exits the loop. And then with all of that information that it receives, it will update the Google Sheets with the append rows action. Very simple, but very powerful. If you invested in the stock market, you can basically add your 10 stocks and have it go through them every single day so that you're always in the loop on what's going on with all of these companies. Maybe you don't want to do this every day, maybe every 7 days. Up to you, it depends on your trading strategy and how close you keep track of those things. Next up, we've got one of the automations that we made before, but like sort of like on steroids version. And it is the outreach Hive. So here you can build an AI agent that can automatically outreach to potential leads. And then from that, find even more leads to outreach to and just do that in a cycle. Basically, you can send it one piece of data, like a URL to, let's say, like a conference. And from that, you can get hundreds of outreaches done from basically just like 2 minutes of your input. To build this, we can start with a message trigger. Then we add an AI agent with a basic prompt telling it that it will either get a Google Sheet or a website URL, and it should retrieve a list from there by first name, last name, and email. We give it Google Sheet skills as well as web browser skills in case we send it a URL and it needs to extract that from that. Then we have a loop, so each one of those leads will enter through this loop, and then they will be entered into a Perplexity search, which will basically research them further. Then we have an AI agent, which will use that information to find their LinkedIn profile, their Facebook profile, recent podcast appearances, blog posts, as well as YouTube videos. And we just gave it internet skills like extract web page text, search internet, and crawl websites. Then we have a draft email. So basically now Lindy, using all of that information that it found, it can draft an email to outreach to them. If you wanted to, we could do the same thing we did before and then have an entire sequence of emails it will send automatically. However, for this example, I just have draft email. Then this is where the interesting bit begins. Then after that, we added LinkedIn profiles action. Basically here, Lindy will automatically enter the URL of the LinkedIn profile that it found and find lookalike profiles, which will then enter the next loop. And it will do the same thing for those as well. Also, let's say we send it a web page to 5 people at the conference. This automation will then research all of them, draft an email for all of them, or send it if you set it up that way. Then it will find lookalike profiles for all 5 of them. So let's say it finds 3 for each. So then we have 15 additional profiles that will also get researched and an email drafted. So we send Lindy one link, and then from that one link, the 5 people, it did an outreach to 20 individuals. And if you wanted to, honestly, you could actually loop it again. But I think in that case, it'll get a little bit too hectic, a little bit too exponential. The next automation can help you have a competitive edge over all of your competitors by tracking every single one of their moves. So using Lindy, you can set up an AI competitor tracker, all of the news and latest developments of your competitors, and updates you to that information regularly. We can have it running on a recurring schedule, so just running by itself, let's say bi-weekly or weekly, or we could set it up as a message on Slack. So once we send it a message on Slack, it will perform the research. For those first 2 things, we just gave Lindy some context that this is schedule tracking and that this is on-demand tracking, so that he knows later down the line. Then next up, you can add another Lindy utility and give it more context. So here we can list all of the different competitors that we have that we want to keep a track on. And we wanted to also make sure to read the Slack message and maybe get the competitors from there as well. And then we just tell it to ensure that the final competitor list used for research reflects exactly what the user has requested in the Slack message. Retrieve action to make sure it gets historical data from those competitors from before. Then we can add a conditions module, so just how it should act if there's multiple or if there's a single competitor in our request. If it's a single search, it will send it to the competitor research here on Perplexity to research the company overview, product and service offerings, market position and strategy, all of those different criteria. Then we can set up a condition module to how it should notify us, depending if it was schedule tracking or on-demand tracking. There's 2 different Slack messages. Or in our case, if it was many competitors, we can once again do a loop. So it does the same thing that it did here, but for multiple competitors. But here we can also add a Google Sheet so that it updates each one of our competitors' data research. And then we can add a Google Docs action so that it can update our competitor document with all of the recent updates. Next up, we've got an AI automation that can help you grow your business faster by doing the influencer outreach. You can build an AI agent Lindy that outreaches to potential influencers by itself and handles the negotiations for you. To do so, we can start with 2 triggers. We can start at a Google Sheet trigger. So for example, our database where we already have a list of influencers that we want to outreach to, or message received. So we trigger directly. Next, we add the Gmail action module where we tell it to email the person that they received from the Google Sheet or the message and customize the email to the influencer's name and the company's name and outreach to them using the email template that we've provided. Similar system here as we've seen before. After the email is sent, we set a timer. Once again, no response, we follow up with the last email. However, if the reply is received, we go down this path where we add another action for Slack message where we will basically notify ourselves that the prospect has responded and what they responded with. Next up, we add a condition module where we split it into 3 different conditions where they've responded positively, where they've offered their rates and sent their media kit, and then the other one where they've declined. If they accepted their offer, we have 1 email draft ready here, basically saying that we're ready to work and what the next steps are, asking them to schedule a call. If they send us the rates, we have another email ready for that as well, basically emailing back whether the rates suit us or not. You can customize this as much as you want with your own rates. And if they decline, we have another email here like, no worries, best of luck, talk to you later. And last but not least, we can update our Google Sheet with the status of the deal, whether they went through, they accepted, declined, whatever happened. And lastly, just an action to finish it off to basically, once they've responded to any one of these, to stop responding and just observe. Simple but effective system. If you're doing a lot of outreach to potential influencers, this can save you a lot of time and make it much easier to outreach to many different influencers at once. If you wanted to make it more advanced, you could add a knowledge base here and replace these with an agent so that Lindy can go back to the knowledge base, see how to respond to a specific message and even negotiate further. At the moment, you will receive a reply and then you'll most likely reply here manually, which is completely fine. But if you wanted to, you can completely automate it with an AI agent will negotiate on your behalf and close the deal completely. And last but not least, we've got an AI automation that can replace you and act as the CEO within your company. I'm joking, but here I can show you the AI Elon Lindy, basically an automation that will keep your employees motivated and call them and basically make sure everyone is on track within your company. We'll start off with a message trigger that will trigger our AI agent. The greeting message here will ask us for a spreadsheet with our employees' names and phone numbers, or we could just give it one name and one phone number to make a test. This information will then get passed to an AI agent, which we made here. And we basically told this AI agent that once it gets a spreadsheet, get all the employees and send a message to Elon Lindy with all the data contained in the entire row, which is basically this Lindy itself. It will trigger this part of the automation. Then it will stay quiet and wait for this automation to complete until it goes back, and then it updates the Google Sheet with basically a summary of everything that's been done by this automation. So the second trigger is actually a Lindy trigger. This is a Lindy trigger which can be triggered by other Lindys or other agents. In our case, it will be triggered by this one. Once it's triggered, it will start the action. It will title the action to the name of the employee. It will make a phone call to that employee. It will call them and ask them exactly this. Hi, this is Elon Lindy. What did you get done this week? And then it will have a short conversation with the employee just to see what they've been up to. And it will ask them for their goals for the next week. And then it will hang up. After the call ends, it will reply back to this agent with a summary of the call. And it will do this process for all of the employees for the Google Sheet that you sent. So basically, this AI agent, you can give it a spreadsheet, the names of the employees and the phone numbers of the employees, and it will terrorize them to make sure they're all doing what they're supposed to do. It will then send a message back to this agent and update the Google Sheet with a summary of what they've been up to. So you can go back to the spreadsheet and see what all of your employees have been doing. Now, we've covered a lot of automations in this video, and I hope this gives you some inspiration on the things that you can start automating within your own business and your own workflows. So at the beginning of this video, I actually lied to you. I said that each one of these automations can be set up within 5 to 10 minutes. The reason why this is a lie is that if you click the link down in the description below, you can sign up to Lindy and you can actually try all of those automations as a template. So maybe a lot of them will take you even less than 5 minutes to set up. You just need to set up your own accounts, and for some of them, your own prompts, your own company description and things of that nature, and you're ready to roll. Once again, click the link in the description to check out Lindy and click the video on the screen now to watch one of our next videos.